There is a moment every man knows too well. The moment your confidence disappears the second she walks into the room. Your thoughts scatter, your emotions spike. You start saying things you did not plan to say, acting in ways you do not recognize, and later you replay it all, wondering why you lost control when you promised yourself you would not. Here is the truth no one explains. Losing control around women has nothing to do with attraction. It has everything to do with emotional power. When a woman affects your mood, your reactions, and your sense of self, she holds leverage over you. And the more you try to impress, the more control you give away. This audiobook is not about becoming cold, distant, or arrogant. It is about becoming unshakable, calm, grounded, centered in yourself no matter who is in front of you. If you have ever felt nervous, reactive, overattached, or emotionally off balance around women, stay with me until the end, because once you understand why control slips away and how to reclaim it, you will never approach women from weakness again. This is where emotional mastery begins.
Chapter 1. Why you lose control around women. There is a moment that happens quietly, almost invisibly. You are fine 1 second, calm, rational, grounded. Then she enters the room, or her name appears on your phone, and something inside you shifts. Your breathing changes, your thoughts speed up, your self-awareness sharpens in an uncomfortable way. You start monitoring your words, you start anticipating reactions, and without realizing it, you are no longer centered in yourself. You are orbiting her. This is the moment control begins to slip. Not because she is powerful, but because you have unknowingly handed your power away. Most men believe they lose control around women because they care too much, because they are attracted, because they are nervous or inexperienced. But attraction is not the root. Caring is not the enemy. The real reason control disappears is much deeper and far more uncomfortable to admit. You lose control when your sense of self becomes dependent on how she sees you. The moment your value starts hinging on her reaction, your emotional balance is gone. Control is not about dominance or confidence tricks. It is about where your identity lives in that moment. If your identity lives inside her approval, her interest, her validation, then every word she says and every expression she shows has the power to move you. When she seems impressed, you feel high. When she seems distant, you feel anxious. When she pulls back, your mind spirals. This emotional volatility is not love or attraction, it is dependency. Most men never notice this shift happening. It feels automatic, natural, almost justified. But the truth is, the loss of control always follows the same pattern. You begin to imagine a future outcome with her. You project meaning onto her attention. You attach importance to being chosen. And the moment that outcome matters more than your internal stability, you are no longer leading yourself. You are reacting to her. This is why some women have such a strong emotional effect on you, while others do not. It is not about beauty alone. It is about what she represents in your mind. She may represent validation you have not given yourself. She may represent a chance to feel worthy, desired, or complete. And when a woman becomes a symbol instead of a person, you lose control around her. Your nervous system feels this threat immediately. It senses that something important is at stake. Your body shifts into performance mode. You start trying to manage perception instead of staying present. This is why your words come out wrong, why you overexplain, why you hesitate or rush, why you act out of character. You are no longer grounded in who you are. You are trying to protect an imagined outcome. Losing control around women is not a flaw. It is a signal that your emotional center is external instead of internal. And as long as that center lives outside of you, you will always feel unstable when the stakes feel high. Control does not mean suppressing emotion. It means not being owned by it. It means being able to feel attraction without losing self-respect, interest without losing presence, desire without losing clarity. This level of control only comes when your identity is solid enough that no reaction from her can shake it. Most men try to fix this problem by learning lines, strategies, or behaviors. They try to appear confident instead of becoming grounded. But confidence that is performed disappears the moment pressure enters. Groundedness stays, and groundedness comes from knowing that your worth is not being decided in that interaction. When you truly understand this, something shifts. You realize that losing control is not about her beauty, her attention, or her behavior. It is about the story you are telling yourself in that moment. The story that says this matters too much. The story that says this outcome defines me. The story that says if I lose this, I lose something about myself. That story is the real enemy. A man who does not lose control around women is not indifferent. He is internally anchored. He enjoys attraction without clinging to it. He engages without abandoning himself. He remains emotionally present while staying rooted in his own frame. This chapter is not meant to shame you. It is meant to wake you up. Because once you see the real mechanism behind losing control, you stop fighting symptoms and start addressing the cause. You stop trying to act confident and start building emotional independence. You stop reacting to women and start relating to them as equals rather than judges of your worth. Control begins the moment you reclaim your center, not by pushing women away, but by pulling yourself back into your body, back into your breath, back into your values, back into the understanding that no interaction can add to or subtract from your identity unless you allow it. The goal of this audiobook is not to make you emotionally numb. It is to make you emotionally sovereign, to help you experience attraction without losing your spine, to help you stay calm when your instincts tell you to perform, to help you stay steady when desire tries to pull you off balance. And it starts here, with the truth. You do not lose control because of women. You lose control because you momentarily forget who you are when they appear. Once you remember that, everything changes.
Chapter 2. The moment you hand over your power. There is a specific moment when control is lost, and it almost never looks dramatic. It does not happen when she speaks. It happens when you interpret what her presence means. The shift begins internally, long before any words are exchanged. You start to assign value to her attention. You imagine what it would mean if she liked you. You picture what it would say about you if she chose you. And in that quiet mental movement, power changes hands. The handover of power does not come from her actions. It comes from your expectations. The moment you start seeking validation through her response, your emotional center leaves you. You are no longer operating from self-direction. You are waiting to be approved. This is the true origin of emotional imbalance around women. Most men do not realize how subtle this transfer is. It feels reasonable, natural, even romantic. Of course you care what she thinks. Of course her reaction matters. But caring and depending are not the same thing. The moment your sense of worth begins leaning on her response, you are no longer choosing how you feel. You are negotiating it. Approval seeking is not loud. It hides behind politeness, effort, humor, and charm. It shows up as trying a little harder than necessary, explaining a little too much, adjusting yourself to fit what you think she wants. Each of these actions sends the same internal message: my stability depends on her reaction. Your nervous system understands this immediately. The body reacts as if something important is at stake. Tension increases, breathing shortens, awareness turns inward and anxious. You become hyper-focused on doing things right. This is not attraction, this is performance pressure, and pressure always weakens presence. The more you want a specific outcome, the more control you lose, because outcomes live in the future and presence lives in the now. When your mind jumps ahead to winning her interest, avoiding rejection, or securing validation, you abandon the present moment. You stop being real. You start managing an image. This is why conversations feel forced, why timing feels off, why humor misses, why confidence disappears. You are no longer responding naturally. You are calculating, and calculation kills authenticity. Power is not something you take from women. It is something you keep within yourself. The moment you treat her attention as a reward, you downgrade your position. You subconsciously place her above you, not as a person, but as a judge. And no man remains relaxed in front of a judge.
The painful truth is that losing control often comes from wanting to be chosen instead of choosing. When you walk into an interaction hoping she will validate you, you have already surrendered leadership. When you walk in curious, grounded, and self-directed, power stays with you. This does not mean you become indifferent or detached. It means you no longer hand over emotional authority. You enjoy connection without requiring it to mean something about you. You allow attraction without letting it define you. A man who keeps his power does not rush to prove himself. He does not hurry to impress. He does not collapse emotionally if interest is uncertain. He remains steady because his identity is not on trial. The reason this feels difficult is because many men were never taught to generate self-validation internally. They learn to measure worth through external response, through praise, through acceptance, through being desired. When a woman represents that validation, control becomes fragile. This chapter is not about blaming yourself. It is about seeing the pattern clearly. Once you see the handover, you can stop it. Once you notice the moment you begin leaning outward, you can pull your center back in. Control returns when you stop needing the interaction to go a certain way, when you stop attaching meaning to her reaction, when you stop turning possibility into pressure. You do not lose control because she is special. You lose control because you momentarily forget that you are complete without her response. A grounded man enters interactions from wholeness. He is open but not dependent, interested but not attached, engaged but not destabilized. His power comes from internal alignment, not external approval. This alignment is what women feel as calm confidence, not because he is trying to impress, but because he is not trying to secure anything. The moment you stop handing over power is the moment you stop asking what this interaction says about you. You shift your attention to presence, to curiosity, to authenticity, to choice. And when you do, something important happens. You feel calmer, your words slow down, your body relaxes, your reactions soften. You stop performing and start being. That is power reclaimed, and it is the foundation for everything that comes next.
Chapter 3: Emotional Triggers and Why She Activates Them. There are moments when a woman does not just attract you but activates you. Your emotions spike faster than logic can keep up. Old insecurities surface. Confidence flickers. You feel pulled into reactions that do not match who you believe you are. This does not happen randomly, and it does not mean there is something wrong with you. It means a trigger has been touched. Emotional triggers are unresolved patterns inside you that get awakened by certain cues, and women often activate them because attraction amplifies sensitivity. When desire enters the picture, your nervous system pays closer attention. What once felt manageable now feels urgent. What once felt neutral now feels loaded with meaning. A trigger is not caused by her behavior alone. It is caused by the story your mind attaches to her behavior. She becomes a mirror reflecting parts of you that have not been integrated. This is why one woman can make you feel calm while another sends your mind into overdrive. It is not about her, it is about what she represents inside you. Triggers often come from past experiences where your sense of worth was questioned, moments where you felt overlooked, rejected, compared, or not chosen. Your mind stores these moments as emotional memory, and when a similar pattern appears, the body reacts before thought can intervene. Attraction intensifies this process because it raises the stakes. You are no longer just interacting, you are risking something. Approval, validation, identity. The body senses risk and prepares for defense or performance. This is why your reactions feel involuntary. The trigger fires and the body moves. Understanding this removes shame. You are not weak, you are patterned, and patterns can be changed. Emotional triggers thrive in ambiguity. When you do not know where you stand, the mind fills the gap with fear. When you do not know her intention, your mind imagines consequences. When meaning is unclear, insecurity steps in to create a narrative. That narrative is usually rooted in self-doubt. What if I am not enough? What if I lose this? What if I am rejected again? These thoughts are not about the present moment. They are echoes from the past looking for resolution. This is why trying to control your behavior alone does not work. The trigger lives deeper than behavior. It lives in interpretation. To regain control, you must change how you relate to the trigger. Instead of trying to eliminate it, you observe it.
You notice the sensation in your body, the tightening, the urge to impress, the rush to explain. And instead of acting, you pause. That pause is the beginning of mastery. When you pause, you separate yourself from the trigger. You realize that the emotion is happening within you, not to you. This creates distance. In that distance, choice appears. You can choose to breathe. You can choose to slow your speech. You can choose to remain present instead of reactive. This is how triggers lose power, not by suppression, but by awareness. Another critical shift is recognizing that triggers do not mean danger, they mean information. They show you where growth is needed. They point to places where your identity still depends on external response. When a woman activates insecurity, it reveals a belief that your worth is not fully internalized. When a woman activates anxiety, it reveals a fear of loss that has not been resolved. These are not failures, they're invitations. The more you resist triggers, the stronger they become. The more you observe them without judgment, the weaker they get. Over time, your nervous system learns a new response. Instead of panic, it learns regulation. Instead of urgency, it learns patience. This is how emotional stability is built. It is also important to understand that women are not consciously trying to trigger you. They are simply being themselves. The trigger is your responsibility, not theirs. When you stop blaming external behavior and start addressing internal reactions, control returns. You stop trying to manage her and start managing yourself. This is where real confidence becomes real. Real confidence is the absence of triggers. It is the ability to remain grounded when they arise. It is knowing that an emotional surge does not require immediate action. It is trusting that you can sit with discomfort without losing your frame. As you practice this, something profound happens. The same situations that once destabilized you begin to feel neutral. The same cues that once caused anxiety begin to lose their charge. You realize that attraction can exist without emotional chaos. Desire can be present without urgency. Connection can happen without self-abandonment. This is emotional maturity. Triggers fade not because women change, but because you do. Your identity strengthens, your self-trust deepens, your center moves inward. And when that happens, women no longer activate fear. They activate curiosity, interest, choice. You are no longer reacting to the past through the present. You are meeting the present as it is. That is control regained, and it sets the stage for the deeper detachment that follows.
Chapter 4. Detaching without becoming cold. Detachment is one of the most misunderstood concepts in relationships between men and women. Many men hear the word and imagine distance, indifference, emotional shutdown, or pretending not to care. They confuse detachment with withdrawal. They believe that to protect themselves, they must harden, close off, or become someone who feels nothing. But true detachment has nothing to do with coldness. In fact, coldness is usually a symptom of fear. Real detachment is warm, present, and grounded. It is the ability to stay emotionally connected without being emotionally dependent. When you lose control around women, it is not because you feel too much. It is because you attach too quickly. You attach meaning, outcomes, and identity to interactions that have not yet earned that weight. Detachment corrects this imbalance. It allows you to enjoy attraction without surrendering your center. It allows you to be open without becoming reactive. A detached man does not withdraw his interest. He withdraws his need. This distinction changes everything. Need creates pressure. Pressure creates performance. Performance destroys presence. Detachment removes that chain. When you no longer need a woman to validate you, your body relaxes. Your tone slows. Your words become natural again. You stop chasing reactions and start allowing connection to unfold. Cold men are often praised for appearing confident, but what they are really doing is protecting themselves from vulnerability. They shut down to avoid risk. Detached men are different. They are willing to feel attraction, curiosity, and desire, but they do not let those feelings hijack their behavior. They stay emotionally available without losing emotional authority. The key to healthy detachment is understanding that closeness does not require urgency.
You can be interested without rushing. You can enjoy chemistry without demanding certainty. You can explore connection without attaching your worth to the outcome. When you remove urgency, you regain control. Urgency is what destabilizes men. The need to lock something in, the need to know where you stand, the need to feel chosen. Detachment slows time. It brings you back into the present moment. And in the present moment, there is no rejection yet, no loss yet, no failure yet. There is only interaction. This is why detachment feels calming. It grounds you in what is real instead of what is imagined. You stop projecting futures and start experiencing now. Your nervous system responds immediately. Tension lowers. Breathing deepens. You feel more like yourself again. Detachment also restores polarity. When you are too attached, you lean forward emotionally. You overgive, you overexplain, you try to secure connection. This leaning collapses attraction. When you detach, you stand upright. You allow space. You let curiosity travel both ways. You stop chasing and start inviting. Importantly, detachment does not mean withholding affection or warmth. It means expressing interest honestly without expectation. You can be kind without being needy. You can be attentive without being anxious. You can be playful without being desperate. Most men fear detachment because they believe it will make them lose women. The opposite is usually true. Detachment removes pressure, and pressure is what pushes people away. When a woman feels that you are grounded regardless of outcome, she relaxes. She feels safer. She feels free to choose rather than obligated to respond. Detachment also protects you emotionally. When interest fades or circumstances change, you do not collapse. You do not spiral. You do not question your worth. You feel disappointment, but not devastation. You recover quickly because your identity was never invested in the outcome. This is emotional adulthood. The ability to feel without falling apart. The ability to care without clinging. The ability to connect without losing self-respect. Learning detachment requires practice. You will feel the urge to lean in, to explain yourself, to seek reassurance. When that urge appears, pause, breathe, feel your body. Ask yourself whether the action is coming from desire or from fear. Fear seeks control. Desire allows flow. Choose desire. As you practice this, you will notice a shift in how women respond to you. Conversations feel easier. Interactions feel lighter. You feel less pressure to perform. You are no longer trying to be impressive. You are simply being present. This presence is what women describe as calm confidence. Not arrogance, not indifference, but steadiness. A sense that you are comfortable in yourself regardless of how the interaction unfolds. Detachment also changes how you see women. You stop placing them on pedestals. You stop imagining them as solutions to emptiness. You start seeing them as people, equals, individuals with their own emotions, flaws, and uncertainties. This equality removes fear. Fear only exists when you feel beneath someone. When you detach properly, you do not disappear emotionally. You become clearer. You communicate more honestly. You set boundaries without anger. You walk away when necessary without resentment. This is detachment. It is an internal posture, a decision to stay rooted in yourself no matter who stands in front of you. A man who masters this does not lose control around women because nothing external is holding his emotional steering wheel. He enjoys attraction without becoming owned by it. He stays open without being exposed. He stays warm without becoming weak. This chapter marks a turning point. You are no longer trying to control your reactions through force. You are changing the conditions that cause them. By learning to detach without becoming cold, you reclaim emotional authority while still being fully human. And from that place, something powerful happens. You stop trying to hold on to women. You start holding on to yourself. That is where true control lives.
Chapter 5.
building an internal center that cannot be shaken. There is a difference between appearing calm and being centered. Appearing calm relies on circumstances cooperating. Being centered does not. An internal center is the place inside you that remains steady regardless of who is watching, who is approving, or who is pulling away. When you lose control around women, it is almost always because this center has drifted outward. Your emotions begin orbiting her reactions instead of resting in your own values. Building an internal center means bringing your emotional gravity back home. It means deciding that your sense of self will no longer be negotiated in conversation, tested by silence, or shaken by uncertainty. This center is not arrogance, it is not ego, it is self-leadership. It begins with the realization that you do not need to be chosen to be complete. You do not need attention to feel whole. You do not need certainty to feel grounded. When these truths become embodied rather than intellectual, your nervous system relaxes. You stop scanning for signals. You stop measuring your worth moment by moment. You start moving from intention instead of reaction. An internal center is built through alignment. Alignment between what you value and how you behave. Many men feel unstable because they act against themselves in pursuit of approval. They say things they do not mean, they tolerate behavior they do not respect, they suppress boundaries to maintain interest. Each of these actions creates internal friction. That friction weakens your center. The body feels it immediately. Tension rises, confidence drops, control slips. To build an unshakable center, you must live in agreement with yourself. When you mean what you say and say what you mean, your energy stabilizes. When your actions reflect your standards, your posture changes. You feel solid because you are solid. This is why values matter, not as slogans, but as anchors. Values give your identity weight. They tell your nervous system where to stand when emotions surge. A man without clear values is easily moved because he has no internal reference point. A man with values does not need to posture because he knows where he stands. Another pillar of an internal center is self-trust. Self-trust is built when you consistently show yourself that you can handle discomfort without collapsing, that you can feel attraction without chasing it, that you can feel uncertainty without panicking. Every time you choose restraint over impulse, you reinforce trust. Every time you breathe instead of react, you strengthen your center. Over time, this creates emotional reliability. You know you will not abandon yourself under pressure. This knowledge is calming. It removes urgency. It allows presence. Presence is what most men mistake for confidence. Confidence is not bravado. It is comfort in your own skin while pressure exists. That comfort comes from repetition, from staying with yourself when emotions rise, from not outsourcing stability to someone else. When your center is internal, rejection does not devastate you. Interest does not intoxicate you. Attention does not inflate you. You remain measured, balanced, clear. This balance is deeply attractive, but that is not the point. The point is freedom. Freedom from emotional whiplash, freedom from overthinking, freedom from the need to control outcomes. An internal center also requires solitude. Not isolation, but time alone where you reconnect with your body, your breath, and your direction. Solitude recalibrates you. It pulls your energy back inward. It reminds you who you are without an audience. Men who never spend time alone often feel lost in interaction because they have not built familiarity with their own presence. When you are comfortable alone, you are powerful with others. Another component is purpose. Purpose gives your life forward motion. When you have something you are building, something you are committed to, attraction becomes an addition rather than a necessity. Your life does not pause for attention, it continues. This continuity stabilizes you. Women sense when a man has momentum, not because he is busy, but because he is oriented. Oriented men are grounded men. Grounded men are controlled men. The internal center is also protected by boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are lines of self-respect. When you know what you will not tolerate, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop explaining your standards. You enforce them quietly through action. This quiet enforcement strengthens your center. You feel safe inside yourself because you know you will act in your own best interest. Building this center does not happen overnight. It happens through small, consistent choices. choosing honesty over approval, choosing patience over urgency, choosing alignment over performance. Each choice adds weight to your center. Each moment of self-leadership deepens your stability. Eventually, something shifts. Interactions feel lighter. You feel less reactive. You enjoy attraction without anxiety. You engage without losing yourself. You are no longer trying to control women because you are controlling your inner world. This is the turning point. When your center is internal, nothing external can shake it. Interest becomes enjoyable instead of destabilizing. Uncertainty becomes tolerable instead of threatening. Silence becomes neutral instead of alarming. You are no longer trying to secure your footing in conversation. You already have it. This chapter is about that footing, about building a core that does not move when emotions rise. Because when your center is unshakable, control is no longer something you try to maintain. It is simply who you are.
Chapter 6. Controlling your reactions in real time. There is a crucial difference between understanding control and living it. Many men understand why they lose control around women, yet still find themselves reacting in the moment. Their mind knows better, but their body moves faster. This chapter is about closing that gap, about learning how to stay grounded when emotions surge, words feel urgent, and reactions try to escape before awareness can intervene. Control in real time is not intellectual, it is physical, emotional, and practiced. The moment a trigger appears, your body reacts first. Heart rate changes, muscles tighten, breathing shortens. This happens before thought. If you try to control reactions only with logic, you will always arrive too late. Real control begins in the body. When you learn to regulate your physical state, your emotional state follows. The first skill is slowing down. Most reactions happen because things feel rushed. A pause feels dangerous. Silence feels like weakness. You feel compelled to fill space, explain yourself, or respond immediately. But urgency is an illusion created by anxiety. Nothing meaningful is lost by slowing down. In fact, most things are gained. When you feel the urge to react, pause your breath. Not forcefully, just intentionally. One slow inhale, one steady exhale. This simple act interrupts the emotional surge. It tells your nervous system that there is no immediate threat. That pause creates a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, choice appears. The second skill is grounding attention. When emotions rise, attention collapses inward. You become hyper-focused on how you were perceived, how you sound, how you were doing. This inward collapse fuels self-consciousness. To regain control, widen your awareness. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the room. Hear the sounds around you. This brings you back into the present moment and out of mental projection. Presence dissolves panic. Another key element is managing speech. Many men lose control through words. They speak too quickly, they explain too much, they justify themselves. Words become a way to relieve anxiety rather than communicate truth. Control returns when you slow your speech. Shorter sentences, fewer explanations, comfortable pauses. You do not owe anyone instant clarity. Silence is not a failure, it is stability. When you speak from calm rather than urgency, your words carry weight. They land instead of scatter. Women feel this difference immediately, not because you are trying to impress, but because you are not trying to escape discomfort. Eye contact is another stabilizer. When you feel nervous, the instinct is to look away. Avoidance increases insecurity. Gentle, steady eye contact grounds you. It pulls you out of your head and into connection. You do not need to stare, simply remain present. Reactions also intensify when you attach meaning to every signal, a delayed reply, a change in tone, a brief silence. If you interpret every fluctuation as a verdict on your worth, you will stay reactive. Control comes from refusing to assign meaning too quickly. You allow information to exist without turning it into a story. This neutrality is powerful.
It keeps you centered. It prevents emotional spikes. It allows reality to unfold without interference. Another essential skill is regulating expectations. When you expect a certain outcome, reactions intensify. When you remain open, reactions soften. Control grows when you enter interactions curious rather than invested. Curious minds observe, invested minds react. In real time, this means noticing when your mind jumps ahead, when it starts imagining where this is going, how it should go, or what it means. The moment you notice that jump, return to now, to breath, to body, to presence. Controlling reactions is also about accepting discomfort. Emotional discomfort is not a signal to act, it is a sensation to be felt. The more you try to escape it, the stronger it becomes. When you allow discomfort to exist without resistance, it loses urgency. You realize that nothing bad happens if you do not react immediately. This realization builds confidence, not the loud kind, the quiet kind, the kind that comes from knowing you can stay with yourself under pressure. Practice is essential. You cannot expect perfect control in high-intensity moments if you have never practiced in low-intensity ones. Start small. Notice your reactions in everyday situations, traffic, conversations, waiting. Each moment of awareness strengthens your capacity. Over time, your baseline shifts. What once felt overwhelming now feels manageable. What once triggered anxiety now feels neutral. You respond instead of react. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, it is to lead it. Emotions are information, they tell you what matters, but they do not need to drive behavior. You can feel attraction without chasing, feel interest without clinging, feel tension without collapsing. This is emotional authority. When you control your reactions in real time, you no longer fear situations with women. You trust yourself to remain grounded regardless of how the interaction unfolds. That trust is felt. It changes how you carry yourself. Your posture relaxes, your voice steadies, your energy becomes calm and contained. You are no longer leaking anxiety through words and movement. This chapter is about embodying control, not performing it, about training your nervous system to remain stable under pressure, because once your body learns calm, your mind follows. And when calm becomes your default, reactions lose their grip. You stop fighting yourself, you stop overthinking, you stop losing control. You simply remain present. That presence is the foundation for everything that follows.
Chapter 7. Why indifference is not confidence. Many men confuse emotional control with emotional shutdown. After being hurt, rejected, or destabilized, they swing to the opposite extreme and call it strength. They become distant, unavailable, flat. They stop expressing interest and convince themselves they are finally in control. But indifference is not confidence. It is armor. And armor may protect you from pain, but it also blocks connection, presence, and authenticity. True confidence does not come from not caring. It comes from caring without losing yourself. Indifference is often a reaction to fear, not a sign of mastery. It is a way to avoid vulnerability by pretending nothing matters. Confidence, on the other hand, allows emotion to exist without letting it run the show. When a man becomes indifferent, he disconnects from his own experience. He suppresses attraction instead of regulating it. He avoids risk instead of building resilience. This may feel safe at first, but it creates a hollow sense of control. He is not grounded, he is guarded. Women feel this difference immediately. Indifference feels closed. Confidence feels open. Indifference creates distance. Confidence creates safety. A confident man does not withdraw his energy to protect his ego. He trusts his ability to remain steady even if things do not go his way. Indifference is brittle. It breaks under pressure. The moment something unexpected happens, the moment interest becomes real again, the emotional wall cracks. Confidence does not crack because it is not built on avoidance. It is built on self-trust. A man who is confident does not need to pretend he doesn't care. He knows he can care without becoming reactive.
He allows himself to feel interest without chasing it. He allows himself to feel uncertainty without panicking. His calm is not manufactured, it is earned through emotional discipline. The danger of indifference is that it disconnects you from yourself. You stop listening to your instincts. You stop engaging honestly. You stop enjoying attraction. Over time, you may feel emotionally flat, detached not just from women, but from life. Confidence does not dull your emotions. It refines them. It gives them structure and direction. It allows you to be expressive without being impulsive, warm without being needy, open without being exposed. The reason indifference is tempting is because it feels like control without effort. You stop investing, so you stop feeling anxious. But this relief is temporary. Eventually, you realize that numbness is not strength, it is absence. Confidence requires presence, and presence requires courage. The courage to remain open even when outcomes are uncertain. The courage to feel attraction without demanding reassurance. The courage to stay grounded while emotions move through you. A confident man does not retreat emotionally to protect his pride. He stays engaged while maintaining boundaries. He does not disappear when interest is unclear. He remains himself. This is why indifference often backfires. It creates confusion. It signals insecurity masked as detachment. It tells the world that you are afraid of being affected. Confidence sends the opposite message. It says, I am stable enough to feel. When you are confident, you do not need to control the interaction by withholding energy. You trust the natural flow. You trust your ability to respond appropriately. You do not rush to define or withdraw. You allow things to unfold. This calm allowance is powerful. It communicates that you are not trying to manipulate outcomes. You are present for the experience. This authenticity is deeply attractive because it feels real. Another difference lies in self-respect. Indifferent men often suppress boundaries along with emotions. They become passive. They avoid conflict. Confident men are clear. They express boundaries calmly. They walk away when necessary without resentment. Confidence is active. Indifference is passive. Confidence is rooted in choice. Indifference is rooted in avoidance. To move from indifference to confidence, you must reconnect with your emotional world without letting it overwhelm you. This means noticing attraction without acting impulsively, allowing interest without attaching identity to it, staying present without seeking control. You begin by allowing yourself to care again, but from a grounded place. You express interest honestly without overinvesting. You communicate clearly without pressure. You remain open without leaning forward emotionally. This balance feels unfamiliar at first. It requires practice. It requires trust. But over time, it becomes natural. As this shift happens, you notice a deeper sense of ease. You are no longer pretending to be unaffected. You are genuinely stable. Your calm is not a mask. It is a state. Women respond differently to this energy. They feel clarity instead of confusion. They feel presence instead of distance. They feel authenticity instead of performance. Most importantly, you feel aligned. You are no longer acting against yourself to appear strong. You are strong because you are aligned. This chapter is about reclaiming emotional richness without losing control, about understanding that strength is not the absence of feeling, but the ability to hold feeling without collapsing. Indifference hides. Confidence stands. Indifference numbs. Confidence steadies. And once you understand this distinction, you stop trying to look unbothered. You start being unshaken.
Chapter 8. The Power of Silence and Stillness. Silence makes many men uncomfortable. Stillness feels risky. When a conversation pauses or a moment stretches longer than expected, anxiety rushes in and demands action. Say something, explain, fill the space. Do not let the quiet expose you. This instinct is understandable, but it is also the source of lost control. Silence and stillness are not empty spaces to escape. They are positions of strength to occupy. When you rush to fill silence, you reveal insecurity. You show that you need momentum to feel safe. Stillness requires confidence because it removes the crutch of constant movement. It asks you to remain present without distraction. A man who can sit comfortably in silence signals something powerful. He signals that he does not need to perform to be valuable. Most men speak too much when they feel pressure. They talk to manage anxiety rather than communicate truth. Words become a shield against discomfort. But the more you speak from urgency, the less grounded you feel. Silence does the opposite. It slows time. It settles the body. It allows clarity to rise. Stillness is not passivity, it is composure. It is the ability to remain centered when nothing is happening externally. This composure communicates self-trust. You are not scrambling to create an impression, you are allowing the moment to exist. Women feel this immediately. Silence creates space for curiosity. Stillness creates polarity. When you are not rushing to impress, the interaction breathes. She feels free to engage rather than pressured to respond. This freedom changes the emotional dynamic. The power of silence lies in what it does to your nervous system. When you stop filling space, your breathing slows, your muscles soften, your awareness widens, you return to your body. This physical shift brings emotional regulation. You are no longer reacting, you are observing. Observation creates control. Silence also prevents overexposure. Many men reveal too much too quickly because they fear being misunderstood or overlooked. They explain themselves into weakness. Silence protects you from this. It allows you to share selectively, to speak when words matter rather than when anxiety demands. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. They land instead of scattering. You do not compete for attention, you command it quietly. Stillness also changes eye contact. When you are calm, your gaze becomes steady rather than searching. You are not looking for reassurance, you are simply present. This presence communicates confidence without effort. Another overlooked aspect of silence is how it reveals others. When you stop filling space, people show you who they are. They speak, they move, they reveal their intentions. Silence gives you information. Talking too much blinds you. A man who understands this uses silence strategically, not manipulatively. He is not withholding to gain power. He is allowing space to see clearly. This clarity protects him from emotional overinvestment. Stillness also breaks reactive cycles. When tension rises, silence diffuses it. Instead of matching energy, you lower it. Instead of escalating, you stabilize. This changes outcomes. Arguments soften, conversations slow, control returns. Most importantly, silence keeps you aligned. You are not acting out of fear, you are responding from intention. You are choosing your moments rather than being pulled into them. There is a difference between awkward silence and grounded silence. Awkward silence comes from self-doubt. Grounded silence comes from self-trust. The difference is internal. When you trust yourself, silence feels natural. When you doubt yourself, silence feels threatening. Building comfort with silence requires practice. Begin by noticing your urge to speak. Feel it without obeying it. Let the quiet exist. Breathe. Observe what happens. You will discover that nothing collapses. In fact, things often improve. As you practice stillness, your reactions slow. Your mind stops racing. You become less attached to controlling the interaction. This detachment restores your center. Stillness also protects you emotionally. When you remain quiet during moments of uncertainty, you avoid saying things you cannot take back. You avoid revealing insecurity. You avoid chasing reassurance. You give yourself time to choose wisely. This is emotional discipline in action. Silence does not mean disengagement. You are present, attentive, aware. You simply do not feel compelled to fill every moment. This presence feels solid. Over time, stillness becomes part of your identity. You stop fearing pauses. You stop fearing space. You stop fearing what silence might reveal because you know who you are. When a man can remain still, he is difficult to shake. He does not mirror anxiety. He does not chase energy. He anchors it. This anchoring changes everything. Conversations feel smoother. Interactions feel lighter. You feel less pressure to perform. You are no longer fighting the moment. You are inhabiting it.
The power of silence and stillness is not about appearing mysterious. It is about being grounded, about trusting that you do not need to rush, impress, or explain to remain worthy. Once you embody this, you stop losing control in quiet moments. You stop leaking anxiety through words. You stop reacting to perceived pressure. You become calm by default. And from that calm, your presence speaks louder than anything you could say.
Chapter 9. When she tests you emotionally. There will be moments when her behavior shifts in subtle but unmistakable ways. She may challenge your opinions, pull back emotionally, tease you, question your intentions, or create uncertainty where there was once ease. These moments are often described as tests, but that word can be misleading. She is not administering an exam. She is observing your emotional stability. And how you respond in these moments reveals far more than what you say. Emotional tests are not about manipulation. They are about safety. On a subconscious level, she is gauging whether your emotional state is solid or fragile, whether you remain grounded when tension appears, or whether you unravel. This is not cruelty, it is instinct. People are drawn to stability because stability feels safe. Men lose control during these moments because they misunderstand what is happening. They take the behavior personally. They assume it means rejection, loss of interest, or disrespect. Their mind races to regain control, explain themselves, or correct the situation. In doing so, they fail the real test, which is emotional steadiness. A test does not require a defense. It requires composure. When she challenges you, the impulse is to justify, to prove, to convince. But justification signals insecurity. It communicates that her approval has authority over your identity. A grounded response does not rush to clarify. It does not escalate. It does not retreat. It remains calm and self-assured. The strongest response to an emotional test is often simplicity. You acknowledge without overreacting. You listen without absorbing tension. You respond without emotional urgency. This communicates that you are not shaken by discomfort. Pullbacks are another common test. She may become quieter, less responsive, more distant. The anxious response is to chase, seek reassurance, or increase effort. This reveals dependence. The grounded response is patience. You allow space without panic. You remain engaged with your life. You do not collapse into overthinking. Space tests whether your center is internal or external. If your center lives in her attention, space feels unbearable. If your center lives within you, space feels neutral. Teasing and playful challenges are also tests of emotional flexibility. If you become defensive, irritated, or overly serious, it signals fragility. If you respond with calm humor or relaxed acceptance, it signals confidence. You show that your ego is not easily bruised. What matters is not the content of the test, but your state during it. Are you calm or reactive, present or anxious, grounded or performative? Passing emotional tests does not mean outsmarting them. It means not being owned by them. A man who stays centered during tests communicates strength without effort. He does not need to win the moment. He trusts the process. He does not try to control her emotions. He controls his own. This is why emotional tests often intensify when attraction is present. Attraction raises stakes. Stakes reveal cracks. Tests surface what is unresolved. When you remain steady, those tests stop escalating because the information she seeks has been provided. Most men fail tests not because they are wrong, but because they overreact. They turn small moments into emotional events. They respond to perceived threat rather than reality. The key is to stay in your body. When tension appears, breathe. Feel your posture. Relax your jaw. Slow your movements. These physical cues regulate emotion faster than thought ever will. You also stop trying to manage perception. You allow her to feel what she feels. You do not rush to change it. You trust that connection does not require constant maintenance. This trust is powerful. It communicates that you are not afraid of temporary discomfort. You are not dependent on constant validation. Emotional tests lose their charge when they no longer produce reaction. They become moments of interaction rather than turning points. It is important to understand that responding calmly does not mean tolerating disrespect. Boundaries still matter. The difference is tone. Boundaries delivered from calm are firm. Boundaries delivered from emotion feel defensive. When something crosses a line, you address it simply, without anger, without explanation, without resentment. This clarity reinforces self-respect. Over time, your consistent emotional stability reshapes how you are experienced. You are seen as steady, reliable, grounded. You become someone whose presence feels safe rather than volatile. This safety is what deepens connection. When you no longer fear tests, they stop controlling you. You stop scanning for approval. You stop reacting to every shift. You remain rooted in yourself. This is emotional leadership. You are not trying to dominate the dynamic. You are anchoring it. And as this chapter closes, one truth becomes clear. Emotional tests are not obstacles. They are mirrors. They reflect how solid your center truly is. When your center is strong, tests dissolve into moments. When your center is weak, moments become crises. By remaining calm, you are not just passing a test. You are demonstrating who you are.
Chapter 10. Becoming the man who is never shaken. There is a moment in every man's growth where the struggle stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. Control is no longer something you reach for in tense moments. It is simply how you move through the world. You are not bracing yourself around women. You are not preparing defenses. You are not rehearsing outcomes. You are present, grounded, and intact. This chapter is about becoming that man, not as an act, but as a state. The man who is never shaken is not immune to emotion. He feels attraction. He feels desire. He feels uncertainty. What separates him is that these feelings no longer command his behavior. They pass through him instead of pulling him off center. He does not tighten when interest appears. He does not panic when it fades. His nervous system has learned stability. This stability was not given to him, it was built. Built through moments of restraint, through choosing breath over reaction, through allowing discomfort without surrendering control. Each time you stayed grounded when your instincts urged you to chase, explain, or withdraw, you strengthened this identity. Eventually, your body learns something important. You are safe within yourself. You do not need to secure approval to remain whole. You do not need certainty to stay calm. This knowledge settles deep into your posture, your voice, your presence. You stop signaling anxiety without realizing it. The man who is never shaken does not enter interactions hoping to be validated. He enters curious, observant, engaged. He is choosing, not auditioning. This shift changes everything. When you stop seeking permission to be yourself, you become magnetic without trying. He does not rush intimacy. He allows connection to grow at its own pace. He understands that urgency is the language of insecurity. Calm is the language of strength. He lets silence breathe. He lets space exist. He trusts that what belongs will not require force. This trust is not naive. It is earned through self-leadership. He knows his values. He honors his boundaries. He respects his time and energy. When something does not align, he does not negotiate his worth. He steps back without resentment. Women experience this as clarity. They feel where they stand. They feel no pressure to perform. They feel free to choose. This freedom is what creates genuine attraction, not control, not tactics, presence. The unshaken man is not reactive because he no longer takes everything personally. He understands that moods change, that emotions fluctuate, that interest ebbs and flows. He does not interpret these shifts as threats. He remains anchored. He also does not cling to outcomes. Whether connection deepens or fades, he remains himself. His sense of identity does not rise or fall based on external response. This makes him consistent, reliable, emotionally mature. Most importantly, he respects himself. Self-respect is the root of control.
When you respect yourself, you stop abandoning your center for attention. You stop betraying your values for validation. You stop tolerating what diminishes you. This self-respect shows in subtle ways, in how you walk away calmly when something feels off, in how you speak clearly without defensiveness, in how you remain warm without being needy. Becoming unshaken does not mean you never feel nervous. It means nerves no longer decide your actions. It means you can feel attraction without urgency. It means you can feel desire without attachment. This is emotional sovereignty. You no longer ask, how do I act confident? You live confidently because your inner world is organized. Your emotions are led, not suppressed. Your reactions are chosen, not automatic. The man who is never shaken does not fear losing women because he is not trying to possess them. He allows connection to exist naturally. If it continues, he enjoys it. If it ends, he releases it without collapse. This ability comes from wholeness, from knowing that your life has direction beyond attraction. Purpose stabilizes you. Meaning anchors you. When your life is moving forward, no interaction becomes your emotional lifeline. This chapter is not about perfection. You will still have moments of doubt. You will still feel temptation to react. But now you notice faster. You recover quicker. You choose differently. And over time, these choices compound. You are no longer the man who loses control around women. You are the man who remains steady in himself. This steadiness is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is felt in your silence, in your eye contact, in your pace, in your restraint. You no longer need to prove strength. You embody it. And that is the final transformation. When control is no longer something you manage, but something you are.